of the cake at a piece of time. Okay, just looking at a piece of time, taking a complete cut, looking at what's going on, longitudinal, following the same cohort, following the same group over a period of time.
Oh yeah, longitudinal.
Longitudinal. Cross section is the one that you're looking for in that. So you're taking a section straight away at a time. Longitudinal, long time.
I used a Dr. Chris, I forgot his name, but anyway, he's a Palmerston North, Macy, and he did a survey, and it was a central survey on Christmas throughout the whole country, and it took, the information was based on the 2000, and I think it was in 2005, and it was released last year. So, but there's a lot of stats there, and like in the use, like prisoners using marijuana or so I still couldn't get around it. Like I got really lost in the information, and it forced me to.
Yeah, that's why you're just looking for these key words, rather than trying to swallow all the information, because it can be really, particularly some of the dense number stuff. Just look around the numbers for the words. So when they're doing surveys, you can do them via texts and documents sort of stuff. That's when you're just looking over texts and documents, and via questionnaires. So when I'm looking at survey research over texts and documents, that's that counting that we're talking about. So I'll have a set amount of questions, and I'll look over the texts and the documents to see what's going on with those questions or questionnaires. And in quantitative research, I'm going to use a lot of closed items. Closed items are questions where you tick the box, because I want to count. I'm not going to use a lot of open items, and I'll actually encourage you, if you're going to do any research at all and you're using surveys, the more tick boxes you have, the better, because no one wants to have to write. I know whenever I get my end of course evaluations that none of my students really want to write. They will just tick the boxes and then say, Dr. Fee, you need to get a new job, and that's it. Good work, Dr. Fee. So that's so very limited, that written stuff. Or tell us what you can do to improve course. Supply food. What's more powerful is actually, out of the following, what could we do to improve your learning? 1, supply food. 2, supply free pencils. 3, give everyone a free computer.
How can you be sure that surveys by text are answered by the person you want?
Oh, that text means that you'll be looking at textual documents and counting. So you have set questions, but your text. I haven't even heard of a text survey being done. I have. There's a lot of surveying that gets done via Facebook, which is slightly inappropriate.
Or even by email, like web-based questionnaires. How can you be sure that the person answering is like the target audience?
Yeah, and so that's why they often have a lot of demographics in them, and the demographics are asking age, gender, ethnicity, etc. Now, if you're constructing those sort of surveys, all you're wanting them for is for your analysis. You don't actually want them for your information, so put them at the end. The stuff that actually offends people, been asked, so the stuff that offends people, if I want to ask about your experiences of me as a teacher, that's the information I want. I don't need to know all your demographics. Those are what I need to analyse what you say to me. But if you've missed them out, I've still got the data that's not the most valuable. So if you ever, and especially with services, if you're having to create evaluation questionnaires, always think, put the demographics at the end, because the story that you want is the stuff you need up the front. Branching works like this. So it would be like, when did you go to school? This is an unreliable question because not everyone will be able to answer this. We haven't hit 2023. And if you tick that box there, that takes you to a whole different set of questions. You tick that box there, that takes you to another set of questions. That box there takes you to another set. In a paper questionnaire, it will go, if you tick 1987, please go to question 8. That's what you would have seen if you filled out a piece of paper with them. And SurveyMonkey, I'll set that up. So I'll say, if someone answers 1987, take them here. I don't need them answer in that box.
An example is immigration cards and things.
Oh, immigration cards, yeah. Or even when you have to declare having goods, and then they was like, what goods have you got? So you take yes, and then what goods have you got? Dangerous goods have you got? So branching is quite a useful tool because actually it means that no one's got a lot of time to fill out questionnaires. So why not just give each group their own questions rather than everyone the same questions and really bore them? Okay, so the problem with in questionnaire design, if you're making your own questionnaires, is actually in the questions. Ambiguity is when you've got questions that you really don't know what the hell's been asked of you.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to think of a good ambiguous question. It's hard to think of an ambiguous question when you're used to researching.
You should join MSD, they have them all the time.
Is your hair really blonde? No, because it either is or it isn't.
Do you eat meat? What kind of meat? You don't know. If somebody says, do you eat meat? You might eat a certain type of meat and there's something that you can't, so you're not sure.
Yes, that would be a good one. I was going to say no, but yes, it is, because if you're of a particular faith, you can't really answer that question, even if it's like halal or or you don't eat if it's in Judaic faith where you wouldn't eat pig and pork. So do you eat meat? Wouldn't really capture the full story.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's some.
Sometimes researchers make a lot of assumptions, and I imagine MSD does this kind of giving a whole list of different things that they want when they actually they're assuming something about you when you go to ask that question. Or they're assuming a particular response is wanted, so they ask towards that. That can be huge. Questions that require you to do a lot of thinking as an answerer can be really, really huge. And I've seen some of the worst questions for this are ranking questions. Below are 20 food types. Please rank 1 to 20 your favourite food types, with 1 being the most favourite and 20 being the most unfavourite. That might be, ranking food types might not be as hard as the, any ranking question you'll find actually requires you to do a lot of thinking on your part. It really stretches your head. And sometimes you just want to be able to tick two. And in my researcher opinion, this is why the local body elections, when it comes to the regional health board and the regional council and that with the STV voting, which is when you rank your preferred candidates, is really, really hard because we don't really know our preferred candidates well enough to actually go, this is my top spot, this is my bottom spot. It's really hard to do it in that ranking stuff. And actually the ranking can be loaded. So the New Zealand flag stuff is an example of ranking as well. Okay, and so those of us who are researchers knew how to play the ranking game, and you just rank number 1, the flag that you want, and just leave the rest blank. Double questions is when you ask 2 questions in one. Do you like strawberries? If so, why? 2 questions, 1 question. Leading questions is when you're asking a question and you're trying to get a response. Why do kids hate school? Is a good leading question. Presuming questions is when the researcher presumes they know something about you already. So this is a presuming question, Rose, so don't feel I'm asking this properly, okay? So an example of a presuming question is, what is it like to experience racism as a Māori? So I'm presuming straight up that Rose has had experiences of racism as a Māori. And it could be true, but a proper way of asking it would be, have you experienced racism? And then asking to explain that a bit more. So 2 questions. So time for a break. What we have here is a list of really faulty, very, very faulty questions. So I want you to work in your tables. I've got enough for 1 sheet each. I want you to work in your tables of try to identify what's wrong with the question. You don't have to label it completely, but try to find out what's wrong with the question and then try to rewrite it to work.
Oh, do we have one each?
You can have 1 each. Yeah.
I thought you had one. I'll bring it back it'll come back to you.
Yep.